how mindset and reactivity alter how people receive feedback. Well, mindset is your general attitude towards knowledge and achievement. So there are two extremes of mindset, fixed mindset and a growth mindset. If you have a fixed mindset, you believe your abilities are fixed. Nothing you do is really going to change those abilities. So it really isn't dependent on how hard you work or what your talent or intelligence are. You got what you got, and your effort is not really going to change things very much. That is a fixed mindset. Growth mindset, you believe no matter what talents and abilities you've had, it's your effort that's going to expand them. You're going to be able to move beyond them and expand your knowledge through your own effort. We did surveys of students in the CVM several times over the last years and have demonstrated that the vast majority of our students have a growth mindset. And the same is true of our faculty when we have surveyed them. Growth mindset in students is good because it's associated with better academic achievement. So they're less likely to be put off by failures. They're more likely to see that as something that they can work past. They see their knowledge and abilities as something that can be grown by them over time. And so generally, when you're thinking about giving feedback, people with a growth mindset are happy to get feedback because they see it as a way that they can help themselves get better. They know they can get better through their own efforts. But you should be thinking about that when you're providing feedback for people. If it happens to be a person with a fixed mindset, they're not going to see it as anything but criticism. If it's a person with a growth mindset, they're going to see it as constructive criticism. So what is reactivity then? Well, reactivity is a personality trait that differentiates those who make a change in response to what others want and those who make a change based on what they think they should do, or a personal reflection, a personal decision. So this is sort of the ideal shown here would be the person who says, I'm going to wear a life jacket, so even if I fall in the ocean, I'm going to be fine. That is someone who is making a personal choice, as opposed to somebody reactive who says, I just fell off the boat, I wish somebody would throw me a life jacket or a life preserver. So the idea of how do you take information in, how do you use it to help you decide when you're going to react and how you're going to react. When we think about getting feedback, everybody struggles a little bit with getting feedback because we all feel a little bit defensive. Even when you know you need feedback, you know you want feedback, you also want praise. And so it can be difficult sometimes to get feedback. So when we're giving feedback, it's important for us to think about the best ways to give feedback. We want it to be based on observations and facts, not on opinions. We want it to be presented in a timely fashion so the person who is receiving the feedback remembers the times that we're talking about when we observe things. And we want to have it associated with specific ways to improve. So there's no point giving feedback and then telling someone you're never going to get better. If this is a person with a growth mindset, they're sure they can get better, and they want to hear from you how you perceive they could get better. It is very common to feel defensive when you get feedback. But one author I read said this is good. If you're feeling defensive, that means you care about it. If you really didn't care, you really wouldn't care. And instead, if somebody tells you something about your teaching or your learning or how you're doing a particular skill, and it kind of hurts you and you want to do better, that's good. Because that's you saying, I know I can do better, and striving to be better at whatever it is you're trying to do, understanding something or doing a technique. Adam Grant, in his book Hidden Potential, had a really interesting way of looking at mindset and reactivity and thinking about it and how we get feedback. And that's what I'll go through for the next couple of slides. So if you have a fixed mindset and a reactive personality, then you're like rubber. You don't really want to get new information, and anything you get, you're just not going to work on it unless you absolutely agree that it's something you want to work on. So this would be the very resistant person. They can't see that it's going to matter that you're giving them the feedback, and they're only going to act on it if they really feel like it's important to act on it. They're not someone who's reflective and is going to say, well, maybe I should think about that. If you have a fixed mindset and a proactive personality, then you're more like Teflon. They may seek out the feedback, even though they're not sure they can do anything about it, but they're probably not going to consider it further because there isn't anything they can do about it. That fixed mindset very often is going to keep people, no matter they're reactive or proactive, from really being able to respond quickly or well to the criticism that they receive. If you have a growth mindset and a reactive personality, you're like clay. You're happy to get the feedback, you're happy to get the coaching. They can be directed to try lots of new things because they like to react to what other people tell them to do, but they're unlikely to move beyond that. They're unlikely to say, oh, now that I've been told I should do this, maybe I should try doing that. They're going to kind of stop wherever you coach them. And a person with a growth mindset and a proactive personality is like a sponge, and this is considered the best spot to be. They're happy to get the feedback. They might even seek out the feedback. They know they can respond to the feedback. They're going to do what you tell them to do, and then they're going to think themselves about how they can do even more. This is the person who's going to respond most positively to the feedback that they receive. So Noah, where are you on this spectrum? Because really this one is not just about how we give feedback, but how we get feedback. Think of how hurtful it can be when we get feedback from the students that shows that they didn't really understand what we were trying to achieve in a class. Or we get feedback about things they say we did wrong that we know we couldn't do anything about it. We just had to follow what the university said. I think it's really valuable to think about where we are. Are we fixed or growth mindset? Are we more proactive or more reactive? Where are we in that chart that I showed just before, to think about how does that make my brain feel when I get this feedback, and think about what I'm going to do with it. So this is a tool you can use to help you identify your mindset if you've never done that. If you go to the slides that are associated with this video, you can click on that link and that will take you to a free site that lets you see what your mindset is. And then for being reactive or proactive, here are some statements about each, and then you can use those to sort of self-identify your type. So if you're a reactive person, you wait until a problem pops up to address it, or you may only address the problem itself and not really look for underlying things. You're usually quick to address problems as they arise. You tend to be really good at putting out fires. You work well under pressure. You got good judgment when you're working on the fly, but you may struggle to stay on top of things, and you may feel like you're constantly playing catch up. If you're a proactive person, you ask a lot of questions. You have a lot of ideas. You make comments on things that are way beyond what you're supposed to worry about day to day. You look ahead. You see, well, this is going to be a problem, and we should work on solving that before we even see the problem at all. And you very rarely say, well, let's just wait and see. Things are going good, let's just wait and see. You very rarely do that. You tend to be good at working with others, but sometimes people may perceive you as being manipulative because you really want to reach that goal. And you're really single-minded about it, which sometimes may frustrate those who work with you. So consider yourself, consider people you work with, consider those to whom you give feedback. What can you do to help yourself be more open to feedback? And what can you do when you're confronted with someone who is not taking your feedback? Think about things that you could do to help them move towards that sponge area where they're more interested in what you're saying, they see more ways that they can use the information, and how they can use it to be self-reflective to help themselves move forward. If you have any questions, please contact the CVM Education Support Group at cvmces@umn.edu.